Sitting quietly, wherever you may be, close your eyes.
Unless you're driving, then for the love of God and all is holy, do not close your eyes.
Become aware of the space around you, the temperature of the air, the weight of your clothing on your body, the sounds that may be around you. Accept them as they are, as all is as it should be. Now take a deep breath. Fill your lungs to their capacity and hold it for a moment before you slowly exhale. Do this 10 times as I slowly count backwards from 10. Each time, feeling your muscles relax and a warm, tingling sensation encompass you as you enter a state of profound peace. Breathe with me now. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now snap out of it, because it's time for Fool's Guide to the Occult.
I'm a maple leaf, calmly drifting down a babbling brook headed out to sea.
And I'm definitely not getting stranger every day here as we're forced to self isolate due to the corona pandemic. I am, however, Lexa. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're glad that you guys are here.
Absolutely. And today we're going to be talking about things you can do to chillax, my friends. Sorry, we're talking about everything from guided meditation to self hypnosis, conscious relaxation, and a whole lot more. But first, we have to talk about some journaling since our last episode on chaos magic.
Indeed. All right, so what do you got for us today?
So, chaos magic, kind of my bread and butter when it comes to doing magical things in general. I think of the whole thing as a series of psychological tricks that help me hack my UX, my cultural operating system, and maybe even to some degree, capital T truth or reality, if there is such a thing. But I'm supposed to give you a proper journal entry. So here we go. Date and time, Tuesday, March 24th, 2020, about 6:30ish p.m. Location, my little studio space. Weather conditions, overcast, slight periodic drizzle. Physical feelings, kind of stressed out because I'm trying to jam a whole bunch of stuff into this amount of time I have, and I really need to kind of slow down and take everything day by day. Um, Emotional state, excited despite being stressed. I was pretty stoked at the time about several new things that I'm kind of working on and stuff that's coming up. The ritual and activities performed was a sigil firing, and the performance itself, um, cleared and banished space, grounded and centered, pushed out my um, energy to encompass about a 4 foot sphere around myself, drawing in universal energy to provide a little additional power to an already charged sigil. Turned on a predetermined song, which just happened to be Loud Pipes by Ratatat, to sync my mind with another practitioner. Fired off the sigil and crumpled the piece of paper it was on while visualizing all the energy flying out east across the United States to meet with the energy from the other practitioner in over the Midwest somewhere. And as far as results, well, that remains to be seen, I suppose.
Yep, that's probably not to even think about it, right? Um, but that is a
Indeed.
proper journal entry, absolutely. You guys will notice that Hector has all the pertinent info noted down there. So a lot of what I have is the same since it's from the same operation, but I don't want to waste time repeating. The time of day is different since we live in different places, but I also have some pretty detailed notes about like how I charge the sigil. Um, kind of looking through it here, I think you guys will probably find as you continue to journal that your notes will kind of become more and more like self-referential, which can make it sound kind of like acronyms and symbols and like crazy talking nonsense to people who aren't you or people who aren't like working closely with you. But it's all valuable information to the person who can read it. And you could translate it obviously if you needed to, but So, but when you're taking notes like about a ritual or other working, so the aim is to make it like clear enough so that somebody else could perform it. I know this is sort of like a chaos magic perspective too. I'm guessing there's like a lot of ideas about the correct way to journal. So, you know what? You should just do you. Do your journal the way you want.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can read everybody from SRW Richard Webster will tell you a different way to do it versus like Donald Michael Krieg or Craig or however you pronounce his name to, you know, Phil Hine and Peter J. Carroll. And everybody will tell you slightly different things and really just be as detailed as you can be. And that's like the best way to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like the whole point is to capture the information that you need. I don't think the format is that important. So just, do what works for you.
Yeah. All right. But hey, excessive journaling is stressful, and we're here today to chillax. So, there are a lot of non occult related things that you can do. And if you are just feeling a lot of stress or anxiety in your life, I generally would highly recommend reducing your intake of stimulants, most commonly caffeine, and then get on a regular eating and sleeping schedule as well as regular exercise. Those things, if you do that, actually have shown to reduce a huge amount of stress in people and anxiety. On the exercise end of things, the American Heart Association recommends 150 minutes. That's about 2.5 hours of moderate exercise to 75 minutes, about an hour 15 of vigorous exercise per week. I try personally to get anywhere from 160 to 240, um, which is, working out about 4 times a week on top of a lot of the other random exercise stuff I get, doing martial arts and sword fighting and stuff. Again, exercise proven to reduce stress, also boost your immune system. So I can't really recommend that enough at this point in time. Also, making sure you get the right balance of vitamins, minerals is pretty essential. I know that can be a little bit hard for some of us right now, given certain food supplies are scarce in certain parts of our country, planet.
Yeah.
But it's important factor to consider and do the best you can with that. And like all of that goes, like, you need a healthy mind to effectively perform your magic work, right? And a healthy mind comes with a healthy body. So, just try and take care of yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's all connected, right? Everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so there's sometimes not much we can like do when things kind of spiral out of control. The reason that an occult practice can be so helpful is that it gives us the opportunity to choose how to deal with it when it does happen. If we can maintain enough self awareness, we can recognize how and when to apply the techniques we've mastered as part of the practice. As a side note, you make a good point, Hector, about the physical activity thing. It can be pretty easy to like get really in your head with a lot of this stuff, and I think that exercise is a really good way to kind of help you stay grounded.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's important, I think. But yeah, a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is free, and it doesn't take any special experience or equipment or anything. You just have to have the will to do it. And these techniques don't have to be specifically occult in nature in order to incorporate them into your practice. The first ones we're going to be talking about are actually tried and true science, and you can read about them on the Mayo Clinic's website, should you be so inclined. We're going to get into some cool brainwave stuff later on as well, so that's going to be fun. But before we get into that, I know we touched on it a little bit, but let's just go through what are the benefits that we want to gain out of this, besides just, being chill.
Yeah, sure. So, slowing your heart rate, lower blood pressure, slowing your breathing rate, improved digestion, maintaining normal blood sugar levels, reducing activity of stress hormones, which have a negative impact in your brain long term. It actually changes the structure of your brain if you're constantly in like a fight or flight
Mhm.
sort of brain set, and like permanently alters the structure of your brain. It's kind of crazy. Increased blood flow to major muscles, reduce muscle tension, chronic pain, improved concentration and mood, which is really going to help you on the occult side of things. Improving sleep quality, again, That's a really good one, a really important one, especially if you're trying to do dream work, astral work, that kind of stuff, lucid dreaming. Lower fatigue, reducing anger and frustration, and boosting your confidence in handling problems.
All good things that we want.
Yeah, totally. I think that pretty much covers most of it.
Yeah, I'm sure the list isn't completely exhaustive, but I think we hit all the big ones.
Yeah, I think so.
So, to get the most benefit out of whatever technique you choose, it's also recommended that you pair it with another positive coping strategy like exercise or physical self care or positive thinking, creative endeavors. Do you have a favorite positive coping strategy?
I mean, personally, I like Zazen meditation, as I think most people are pretty well aware of at this point. Video games. Friends are good when I'm allowed to see them. Uh, sometimes you just need to vent some stuff about something that's irking you.
Mhm,
I guess we all have the benefit of some kind of other alternative communication method when we can't see people in person.
mhm.
What else? Dark chocolate, sex with a partner or solo. Comfort foods like pizza, street tacos.
Yeah, some combination of all those things.
Yeah, just mix them all together in a bowl and
I'm there.
spread them out on my bedroom floor.
Hail Satan. Anyway, maybe like a really strong IPA. I don't know if you'd count this as a positive coping strategy, but it is something that you can do to relax. I sure enjoy it ahead of time.
Yeah, it's a quick fix. Just don't,
Yeah,
turn yourself into an alcoholic, right?
exactly. Yeah, I mean it's not something that you should probably rely on, right?
No.
Having a bunch of hobbies is good, right? Like, the creative outlet is huge for me. I've got a lot of different things that I like to make. So that's a
Oh
big one
yeah,
for me.
totally. And like drawing is like a stress reducer as well.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so
Great.
talk about these first couple types of relaxation techniques. So the
Go
first
for it.
one we're going to talk about is autogenic relaxation. So autogenic means something that is created within you. In this technique, you coordinate your thoughts and your breaths in a series of repeating statements. And these statements describe a specific sensation in a specific part of the body. So, for instance, like during an exercise, you might repeat one part of a phrase in your head as you inhale, and the next part of the phrase as you exhale. Like on the inhale, you would think, my right leg is getting, and then on the exhale, you would think heavier and heavier. So I recently began training in this technique, and so far I'm a fan. It's a side note, though. Just I should probably just say this in case anybody is wondering, or it good to know, interesting to know, I should say, just for the sake of thoroughness. So the guy that invented this technique was a German man who did live during World War II and did become a Nazi. So obviously, like a lot of his other work was pretty uncool. So I'm definitely not saying that this diminishes the effectiveness of this technique. It's just of note. So there you have it. You want to
All
rescue
right.
me from
Fair
this?
enough. All right. So some other stuff we can do like progressive muscle relaxation. In this technique, you just kind of focus on tensing and then relaxing different muscle groups. One way to do this is to start with your toes, tensing the muscles there for about 5 seconds, and then relaxing them for 30. And then this is repeated along, moving progressively up through the next muscle groups until you reach, I guess, like your neck or your face, right? And this can help you become more cognizant of which muscles are tensed and increase your awareness of sort of physical sensations in general.
All right. And so this next one, you've probably heard of it. You've probably done it, but we're going to talk about it again because it's obviously super important. So, visualization. Using your imagination to envision yourself in a calming situation can be a great way to relax, and it has the added benefit of improving the skills that you're already working on for your occult practice. So, try to imagine sensations that incorporate as many senses as you are able to build into the scene that you are envisioning in your mind. That's pretty much the short of
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. You're trying to create a unified experience,
Yeah,
right? Like
Gestalt or
a
whatever you want to call it.
gestalt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. All right, here let's briefly run over some just like other relaxation techniques, and then we'll, I don't know, take an interlude and then talk about something like real in depth. Sound
Yeah,
good to
no,
you?
let's do it.
All right. So some other stuff you could do: deep breathing in general, like taking deep breaths is really good for you. That's why we tell like kids when they get really angry, take a few breaths, step back,
Hmm.
right? So like deep breathing helps kind of relax and reset the brain, like get the amygdala out of that flight or fight situation it's in so you can start thinking logically again. Massage is really great. There's some really good books out there. You can learn massage from, both like how to do it on yourself or how to do it with a partner. I'd also really recommend trigger point therapy, which isn't really massage, but it's like, you say you have a tense muscle, you find the place where it connects to the bones or like the halfway point between the muscle, and you apply pressure to relieve tension along the rest of the muscle.
Hmm,
It's kind of
that's
cool.
cool.
Meditation, again, like Zazen's my favorite, but there's so many other things out there you could try. You could try some guided meditations. There's countless variety in that
Yeah.
department. So
I feel like meditation, it's kind of like exercise, right? Like, there's not like the best one. Like, the best one to do is the one that you'll do. So, yeah, find what works for you, you know?
I might be biased in that department, but
Okay.
we'll save that
Well,
for,
I'd love to hash it
I'll debate other meditators at some other point in time.
out. Okay.
Tai Chi is really good, especially for like balance, and kind of helps you sync up your breathing with your body movement and engage some of those key power exercises we talked about in some earlier episodes. Tai Chi, depending on the style, is sort of slow motion martial arts too, which I think is an added bonus. Kind of cements in muscle movements through repetitive routines.
Hmm.
Yoga, if you aren't experienced in yoga, like, go to a studio. Otherwise, there's some great books out there. Yoga Anatomy is really good, and there's a couple other ones that'll teach you like not only how to do the asanas, but like specifically what muscles they're either relaxing or tensing, because you can definitely build muscle doing yoga too. It's not all about stretching.
Oh yeah, no.
Um,
Have you have you seen those videos of those dudes that do yoga? Because I have, and they are ripped.
yeah, dude, no, they're jacked, totally. Um, Also, there's the whole spiritual end of yoga. Like, yoga is comes from the Hindu Vedas, right?
Hmm.
The Yoga Veda, and it's, has a lot to do with either being a form of meditation itself or preparing the body to sit in meditation for a long time. So there's definitely a spiritual end to that. But if you're gonna go out and just like go to a yoga studio and you don't know a whole lot about yoga, I mean, ask your friends first, or like go do some googling, because you probably don't want to go to like a Bikram yoga place. That's like the super hot yoga.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did that shit for
take it
years.
down. You're a crazy person. You CrossFit too, huh?
No, I don't do CrossFit.
Okay.
No, I might be crazy, but I'm not that crazy. No offense to any CrossFitters out there. Let us know
No,
how it
no,
is
no,
for
no.
you.
You do, you
Yeah.
do, you do. You. What else we got?
All right. So biofeedback. So this is actually pretty cool. So this therapy is a treatment like in which patients learn how to control things which are normally involuntary. So we're talking about stuff like blood pressure, heart rate, muscle tension. So the patient is hooked up to some like monitoring device. There's a few different styles, so that a doctor might help them zero in on like the exact technique that's the most effective to cause the change in what they're trying to control. So there's a bunch of different specific techniques measuring like different things like thermal, electro, neuro. I won't go into that because it's kind of boring. But basically, the point is that you can really use this biofeedback to figure out exactly what technique works for that particular person in a very specific way so that they can control something without needing drugs or whatever other therapies they might have needed.
Nice, very interesting. We also have equine therapy, which is horseback riding.
Mm.
I actually helped out on an equine therapy ranch on Oahu in Hawaii when I lived there, when I first met my spouse. Ranch there primarily worked with children with disabilities, but equine therapy has been successfully used like all the way up to like people with extreme PTSD, like war veterans and stuff like that. I know when I get on a horse personally, it's very like kind of spiritual experience. It's very freeing. So yeah, for those reasons, I would highly recommend it. Kind of depends on your needs though. Like if you have some like really high needs, you should probably go to a specific like equine therapy ranch. If you just want to chill and ride a horse and relax, like there's all kinds of like walking tours or like whatever horseback tours you can go on. Or in my opinion, like the best way would be if you just happen to know somebody that owns a horse or a horse ranch or something, it's going to let you just get on and ride around. That'd be
The
great.
importance of having cool friends, right?
Yeah, totally. I don't have any horse friends right now. I wish I did. But so like if your goal though is to relax, I will caution you against English writing. I took some English writing lessons and it is the opposite of relaxation. So
Is there,
that's my
yeah, I mean, is there anything that's like English style that means it's not super proper? I
um,
can't think of any off the top of my head.
punk rock, English punk rock.
Okay. There you have it.
I don't know. I have no idea.
But yeah, no, I that sounds really amazing. Like I think just being around animals can be a huge therapy. Like I don't know, just petting your cat or dog or whatever can be huge. Or I mean, when all this goes crazy stuff is over, go to a petting zoo or whatever, whatever whatever you need to do to get some animal love in your life. God, you should cut that out.
Totally,
That
totally.
sounded terrible.
No, I'm not, no, I'm leaving that in there. I'll cut it out if you really want.
Do as you will.
All right, all right. Music and art therapy too. There's this thing, binaural beats. We're talking about that later on.
Yes, I
Should I
yeah, we
skip
we
this
are
for now?
talking about that shit later. Sorry.
All
I
right, we'll come back to
okay.
that. We'll come back to that. Yeah. Okay. So other one would be like aromatherapy, which I often overlook. I should bring that into my life a little bit more.
Yeah, dude, get out those essential oils. I one of my hobbies is making candles. I like to
Oh,
use
cool.
different scents for different things as you do.
Yeah, totally. So then we have like hydrotherapy. Is that like swimming or something?
Yeah, it looks like it's just a fancy word for like soaking in a tub, which could totally help.
Oh, if that's the deal, I'm all about that. Hot springs for the win. I went to one in Alaska a few years ago. It was really cool. You to be like, surrounded by snow and ice and be all cozy and warm in this like natural flowing water. I felt like one of those monkeys that you see like kicking it in hot springs with like all like a blizzard going on around them. They're just like, yeah.
Hell yeah. No, dude, that's one of the things I miss most about living in Colorado. There's like all these amazing, like little secret hot springs all tucked away that you can find if you know where to look.
Right on.
All right, so this next one always seems to like freak people out a little bit whenever I suggest it, but I've found it to be personally a huge help for me. Based on my own experimentation, it improves focus, relaxation, general sanity, because this shit is definitely driving us insane. Um, and I'm talking about a tech cleanse, right? So much of the technology that we interact with, especially stuff like apps on the phone, have been intentionally designed to manipulate us and to be addictive. So many of the social media platforms are free to use because you're not actually the customer, you're the product that's being sold to companies who would like to have your money, which in this society translates into having your effort and your time and your power.
Right. And they do that through like advertising per views,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Something like
if
that.
you really start looking into it, it's very scary what's going on. But we're not talking about that today. We're
Yeah.
supposed to be relaxing here. So
I think we need to also make like a politics podcast because we swing in that direction a lot.
that can be our side project. I love it.
All right, moving forward.
So yeah, but anyway, I'm just gonna say one more thing. So these guys, they want to know you better than you know yourself. They want to be able to predict what you're gonna do before you even think about it. Does that seem like a good thing? I don't know. Ask yourself. Um,
No, that doesn't. That seems like
yeah, right.
stalkerish, right?
So,
That doesn't sound
and
healthy.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't like use it, right? We love our amazing online communities. Make sure to check us out on Facebook. Just be aware. That's all. Just, be cognizant of what you're interacting with. And you know what? Why not give yourself a break every once in a while? Like it can really be that simple. Like just put the phone away for like even just like a couple hours, like, you'll be so surprised at how free you feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
No.
all of the skills that we're talking about today take practice to master. It's going to take a little while, right? To learn something new. And make sure not to let like learning the technique also be stressful by being hard on yourself. Like just be chill, you know? Be cool to yourself.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. Also, as the Mayo Clinic points out, you should bear in mind that some people, especially those with serious psychological issues and a history of abuse, may experience feelings of emotional discomfort during some relaxation techniques. Although this is rare, if you experience emotional discomfort during relaxation techniques, stop what you're doing and consider talking to your doctor or mental health provider. If one relaxation technique doesn't work for you, try another technique. If none of your efforts at stress reduction seem to work, talk to your doctor about other options. Okay, Mayo Clinic, that seems like good advice. Thank you.
Is is Mayo Clinic a clinic made of
I
mayo?
hope not, because what are the implications of that?
No, they're gross and sticky.
I think this is a good time for an interlude, don't you?
I think you're right.
Okay, so today we chose the card Temperance, which is number 14. Five for you numerology fans out there. Fives are about change, innovation, fluctuation, which can be better or for worse. Okay, so here's what my interpretation is of this guy here. Okay, so this card is a reminder to seek balance. The name Temperance says a lot, like in and of itself. It comes from the Latin temperantia, which I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing right because it is a dead language and there is not necessarily a correct pronunciation. Just to point out. Anyway, it means moderation, sobriety, discretion, self control. So, yeah, I mean, but as a verb, right? Like to temper. In this case, it refers to like adding something during the manufacturing process to modify the properties of what's being made. So, for instance, like tempered alloys, mixtures of metals, are more durable when they're combined with each other. So we get the feel that this card is about getting stronger through balance and self-control, but also through applying like a very specific type of mixture of things to create something that is better than it was before. It's very like kind of alchemical idea here. So the card shows up in the, kind of the story, like after the hero has faced death, and then is prepared to face the devil. So as we look at the picture in the Rider Waite Coleman Smith deck, we see like a winged figure holding two cups, pouring water from one to the other. So let's start there. I'm sure you guys might already know that the Suit of Cups is like all about the inner world of emotion and desire, the will, if you will. In older decks, the cups are different colors, indicating that the two like things are like opposite essences that are being combined to produce life. So yeah, this is definitely like a super alchemy idea. The figure is standing, it looks like an angel basically. It's standing at the edge of a stream, indicating like a crossing or liminal space. So like it sort of indicates that like there's like a choice here. And then we can see like over this behind the figure, we can see that the path, like the path we're on, it's leading to the mountain. And above the mountain is this like golden crown rising up like the sun. So that path, the path leads to self mastery. It leads to illumination. But if we're going to continue on the journey, we have to learn how to figure our shit out, right? Balance it out, temper it out, combine what you need to combine to be what you need to be. So, but in order to do this, we have to allow ourselves to be led by our own inner guide. Like, we have to be honest with ourselves and recognizing and tempering those qualities which impede us on our journey.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of, do you ever flip through that book Be Here Now by Ram Dass?
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. That's like one of my favorite books.
Yeah, super cool. Also, like his story and his background and how he relates to Tim Leary and stuff is really interesting. But we'll get to that at some other point in time. But there's a page in there where he's talking about the guru and how to find the true guru and all of that. And then like the bottom is just like a person looking in the mirror.
Yeah, no, it reminds me of in the Illuminatus trilogy. It's like, who knows better than the Buddha and Jesus? And it's like this question that you're always being asked. Guess what the answer is?
Yeah.
All right, so
All right. Esoteric techniques and interpretations. Today we're gonna talk about self hypnosis for a little bit. I think self hypnosis is really useful because you can sort of take the techniques, and once you kind of understand them in a real basic kind of way, 30, 40 years ago kind of way that hypnosis was used, you can rewrite those and rewrite the scripts and apply it to other kinds of magical occult work you're trying to do. So I think they're useful in a few different ways. So personally, I often don't see a big difference between like psychology and the occult. I think in a lot of ways they're really entwined, or in some ways even the same thing. I very nearly pursued a degree in psychology. Hypnosis is a thing I didn't really get interested in until towards the end of my bachelor's degree, while I was studying about shamanism and trance and other altered states of mind. I actually still have the very first book on this stuff that I ever read, which is Hypnosis for Beginners by William W. Hewitt. Now, kind of want to note that it is my personal opinion that a lot of this guy's other books are probably like 90% rubbish, 99% rubbish. Again, in my
Just
opinion.
rubbish.
However, he was a certified clinical hypnotherapist, was practicing that stuff. So, that goes for something. And while this book that I just mentioned isn't perfect, there are a lot of things in there that I think, still apply, still work. And he also explains them in a really approachable way. So there's kind of like that caveat there, but this book is in some ways useful. So I'd like to start out kind of by quoting his description of hypnosis. He says, hypnosis is a technique that enables you to achieve this altered state of consciousness, the daydream state, deliberately, and direct your attention towards specific goals. So, through this definition, we can see hypnosis is another method of trance or achieving some state sort of close to gnosis, which one can learn to initiate themselves or have brought on them by a professional in the art. And we're not going to be talking about someone, waving a pocket watch in your face and telling you to feel very sleepy. But before we get into a method of self hypnosis you can use to either relax or enter gnosis or step into your astral temple or begin altering aspects of your operating system, we should take a little time to talk about theory and how all this works.
Yes, absolutely. We should definitely do that. Also, as a side note, I'm excited to see how self hypnosis and pathworking differ and how they're related.
Yeah, we're gonna do an episode on pathworking coming up, like
Yeah,
soon-ish, right? Like a
we
few
have been
episodes from
working on
now,
it.
and so we'll see some like we have been, yeah. So you'll see some overlap there, and then you'll see some divergence as well. So I think that will be interesting. So first, we need to talk a little bit about neural oscillations, or what most of you might know as brainwaves, and I'll just kind of run through them all. So first, there's delta waves. Quite a deal has been learned about delta waves in the past few decades, but most of it isn't really useful for our purposes. I will say that delta waves oscillate at around zero point 0.5 to 4 hertz, and it's typically associated with the state of like complete unconsciousness. Also, a strange thing, apparently females among mammalia exhibit more delta wave activity than
Interesting.
biological males do. Don't know why, but it's a thing.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. Next is theta waves, and these oscillate at a frequency of 6 to 10 hertz. These waves are interesting because they show up when awake and actively engaged at higher rates of their oscillation. So, like, more on the higher end there, as well as when we are in states more akin to deep meditation, drowsiness, or hypnotic states. But in this time, they operate at their lower oscillations. That said, they don't show up in our deepest sleep states. It seems that studies done on brain activity in the hippocampus show theta waves arise during various short term memory recall activities. It also has shown an association with the integration of sensory information with some kind of activity, thus suggesting a link between like theta waves and visual spatial learning, as well as tasks like navigation. Alpha waves are next, not to be confused with alpha particles. They have a frequency between 8 and 12 hertz. There's a form of biofeedback therapy, which we discussed a little bit about earlier, associated with alpha waves that's shown some success in controlling seizures and depression. Some researchers have suggested there may be two types of alpha waves because they seem to occur in two very different states of mind. The first being that very relaxed but also awake state, while the other is found deep in REM sleep. There have been some interesting studies regarding alpha wave activity and mistake making. So if I can briefly sum that up, it seems like like when people get like bored or distracted, they tend to like spike in alpha waves, and then they have like a higher likelihood of making have some kind of accident or making a mistake at that point in time. So there's like people are working on these applications that like monitor this brainwave activity to like try and create a device that will alert workers in like high risk job situations, I guess. Like I don't know if you would have this attached to you and it would shock you or something like that, or I don't know what. But basically to try and like reduce big accidents in like I don't know, people who work around high risk machinery or something.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Also, a little bit dystopian in a
Yeah.
way, but also really interesting.
I know, right? It's kind of, but that's the world we're headed towards, you know? I mean, we all say we're scared of it, and yet, we still buy from Amazon and give our souls to
You
Google.
guys
So,
can listen to more about this on our political podcast that we're inventing now.
yeah, that we're not turning this podcast into. Moving forward, uh, still on alpha waves. According to Hewitt alpha waves, this is the state where daydreaming and meditation and hypnosis take place. So this is kind of the wavelength we'll be discussing most in this episode. It also of note that alpha waves primarily occur near the visual cortex, which is in the back of the head. It's where your brain processes all of that visual information and imagined information and visual memory recall and stuff like that. All that's processed back there in the back of the head.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Definitely looking forward to hearing more about that stuff later.
Yeah. All right, we got a couple more waves to talk about. Actually, I think four
There's so
more
many
waves to
waves.
talk about. A couple of them really short though. There's so many waves making waves, brain waves. um Mu waves are found primarily in the motor cortex, which is kind of that band of brain that runs, I guess, generally between your ears. And these mu waves operate between 7.5 and 12.5 hertz, but primarily in the 9 to 11 hertz range. These occur in the largest numbers when the body's resting, but the mind is awake. There seems to be a link between mu waves and autism, though I'm not like an expert or well versed in that, so I'm not really going to go near that one. As well as some promise for scientists interested in using brain computer interfaces, also known as BCIs, to help people with some like more serious physical disorders, I think, to help in communication and a couple other things. So that's kind of interesting.
Okay. Yeah, it is interesting.
SMR waves, these are sensory motor waves, and they operate between 12 and 15 hertz. This is the brainwave which we seem to know the least about at this point. There isn't really a whole lot of information out there I could find about it, except that it has been experimented with for other BCI applications like the Mu wave we just talked about. And it has some association with neurofeedback training for helping people with various learning disabilities and other brainwave related disorders. All right, beta waves are next. Beta waves have the largest frequency range of the brain waves we're going to talk about. They range anywhere from 12.5 to 30 hertz. On the low amplitude end, beta waves seem to occur when we have erratic or anxiety ridden thinking, like when your mind's racing a mile per minute. On the higher end, they're found over the motor cortex and are associated with muscle contractions. So, like when you're lifting boxes, trying to move, or I don't know,
Mhm.
doing heavy labor, something like that. There's also a link between beta waves and the neurotransmitter and receptor known as gamma, aminobutaic acid, or
I would just
GABA,
stick with
I guess,
GABA.
GABA for short.
GABA.
Yo GABA GABA. And finally, that brings us to gamma waves, which oscillate at frequencies between 25 and 140 hertz. So not the much larger than the beta wave frequency. Though the most common is 40 hertz oscillation, and this is kind of a phase of particular interest to many neuroscientists as well as some new age people out there. So, gamma waves are responsible for large scale working memory, problem solving, grouping, general attention, and can be increased through neurostimulation and meditation, as shown in many scientific studies at this point. There's a general belief that gamma waves may play a role in the formation of our sort of coherent perception of reality at that 40 hertz range, which I've referred to this as like our UX, right? Our user
Mhm.
experience in past episodes. Like I said, it's been associated with attention. I've also heard it related to like sort of like mental housekeeping in a
So,
way.
like what you were saying earlier about like how we perceive reality, it being related to this 40 hertz vibration, like, are you saying that like according to like what people are thinking about this stuff, that 40 hertz is sort of like the vibrational frequency of like consensus reality?
I mean, I guess so. I don't know if many scientists have come out and said anything like
I
that.
think scientists usually talk about consensus reality, at least not in my
Yeah,
experience.
no. But it could be related somehow. Um, what would be interesting though is to like pull up like a tone generator online or something like that, and play uh the 40 hertz and listen to it for like, I don't know, a set period of time, varying degrees of isolation, and record the results. I think, didn't Robert Anton Wilson recommend something like that, but it was a different frequency. It was for more like paranormal experiences or something like that. It was in
Yeah,
quantum
I think
psychology, I
you're
think.
right. I can't remember the exact details. It's been quite a while since I read that. But speaking of quantum psychology by Robert Anton Wilson, I think maybe this might be a good time to let the listeners know about our plan to reread it together and do the exercises and have discussions about it. Because guys, it's a super cool and super funny book. It's all about how to understand the way that like language influences the way that we think and experience the world. So we're kind of thinking this could be like a little fun, enlightening experience. So if any of you are interested in taking that journey with us, maybe do like a little book club thing, let us know. You can find us on Facebook at Fool's Guide to the Occult, where you can join our group, Fellow Travelers. All right, so real quick, these
Absolutely.
all these different frequencies of brainwaves, like it reminds me of an experimental treatment that we mentioned earlier, right? The binaural beats, right? You like listen
Oh
to
yeah,
the
yeah.
different tones in different ears, and it's supposed to have some a wide array of effects are purported to result from this. But as far as I was able to find, the research is pretty shaky, but it's definitely interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, I did a research project on this for my physics of sound class back in like 2008 or something like that. Yeah, it doesn't seem to have progressed much since then. Unfortunately, like there's a lot of BS applications that's come out of it, of people like basically just looking to capitalize on people in the new age market. But the general principles are really interesting, and I wonder if any reputable scientists are still kind of experimenting with this or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like the paper that I was looking at was like a review of a bunch of different studies. The paper was published in 2015, but so the authors like their conclusions were that like there could be promise in the tech, but it's like pretty hard to say because most of what's been conducted so far has been like had like pretty bad methodological problems or been contradictory. Yeah, it basically sounds like the state of the research is a complete mess. So, and also as a side note, as you pointed out, Hector, like there is no shortage of people hoping to capitalize on the new age market. I know it's definitely been said before on this show, but I'm going to say it again. I'll probably say it again and again and again. Skepticism, it's a thing. You should use it.
Indeed. Okay, I should probably note that the brain waves that we just covered, those are the waves in what we'd consider a atypical brain function, like a normal brain, if there's such a thing as normal. There are several neurodysfunctions that are associated with a variety of abnormalities in those brain waves. So just to throw that out there. And with that, we can like kind of like dig into hypnosis now.
Let's do it.
So the point of hypnosis is to control brain waves to a certain frequency, at which point the individual is in a state of hyper focused attention and increased susceptibility to suggestion, let's say. So in this state, various suggestions can be made to the subconscious mind, which informs the conscious mind during normal waking brain activity. So it's really important to note that hypnosis is not really dangerous. You can only be hypnotized if you want to be hypnotized. You will never do anything under hypnosis that you don't want to do. This is very different from the various forms of like trance and brainwashing used by cults and experimented with by various nefarious government agencies.
Again, more on that on our other podcast, which is now being invented as we speak. By the way, um, are you still writing your how-to guide for cult leaders?
Um, yeah, yes and no. It's not exactly a how-to guide for cult leaders, though it is that is how the title is phrased with sort of the intention of being provocative. But yeah, I've it's kind of backburnered for a little bit. But I'm still working on it and I intend to release it
Well, we'll definitely
at some
be
point.
looking forward to that.
Yes. All right, all that out of the way. So, like I said, hypnosis is not really dangerous, but you should kind of be careful with how you word your suggestions that you feed in. So, just like the statements of intent in our, episode on chaos magic or episode 5 where we talked about crafting your own magic, you want to be clear and specific. And when you're speaking to someone else or recording your speech to use on yourself, you want to keep sort of a regular tone with a smooth and evenly paced pattern of speech. It shouldn't be so slow that we lose attention on it. Also, you don't want to be talking a mile a minute because the brain can't catch up and respond to that. So you should use probably a few seconds wait time after speaking a phrase that requires some kind of response. And sometimes, like, you do want the person or yourself to respond to various prompts or things, whether that's going to be auditory or mental. Your tone should be as lacking from emotion as possible, almost like monotone, like think kind of Ben Stein, I guess. Um, and the person being hypnotized, even if you are doing the hypnosis, should be sitting down. So when laying down, you risk kind of falling asleep, dozing off. Though, to be honest, I have a sort of self hypnosis routine that I use when I am in bed at night when I do a sort of like kind of nighttime practice I have. But we'll talk about that in specifics at some other point in time. Some people have issues sitting cross-legged, like on the floor, because you can experience like loss of circulation or just like general discomfort if you're going to be in that position for a long time. So if you're not like somebody that regularly sits cross-legged for extended periods of time, maybe don't do it that way. You can sit up against a wall or something
Mhm.
like that. Otherwise, dimly lighted room is best. Bright lights sort of stimulate the mind to waking states. So, you don't want it, bright LED, like surgical light blasting down on you, but you also don't want it too dark because that's going to promote drowsiness too, right? So if you've got a dimmer, great. Otherwise, light some candles or I don't know.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. So now we're going to talk about some actual practices you can do. And I'd like you to consider this your stuff to practice for this episode. These will have sort of incredible implications for your occult practice on a whole bunch of different levels, improving your visualization, trance work. It applies to astral work as well as ego magic and path working. And so there's a whole bunch of things that this sort of like general tech can be applied to or manipulated and changed to fit different practices you might do.
Yeah, absolutely. And all you need to do is just do it. You don't need to buy anything. You don't need to. It's why not? Why not give it a try?
Yeah, totally. I mean, as long as you have, a friend or some kind of recording device, which most of us have in our phone,
Oh, yeah.
you should be able to pull this off. All right. So, since at this point, I expect you all to have some experience with visualization, we're going to skip the most basic exercise and work with creating a focal point and some general relaxation kind of process. If you're doing this with another person, all you need is just the two of you. If you're going to be doing it on yourself, you'll need, like I said before, some kind of audio recording device. Now, for this exercise, I've read that people will use the tip of their nose as a place for bringing attention. But since you are probably going to be working this into some more occult type practices and not just a strictly, therapeutic hypnosis type practice, I have three specific suggestions that you can pick from. And if you've got a better suggestion, by all means, use that. Even let us know about it because I think that's great. My first suggestion would be to use your hara or dajan point, which, if you remember from our discussions on meditation, yoga, and ki development, is about 2 fingers width above your navel. My second suggestion would be to use the anahata or the unstruck chakra, also known as the heart chakra, near the center of your chest. And then my other suggestion would be the ajna or command chakra, also known as the third eye, which is between your eyebrows and the center of your forehead. And I think that those three are some pretty good. Give you a breadth of different styles to play with.
Yeah, and I mean it kind of depends on what you're doing, right? I mean like if you're doing like certain work in like a certain area, you can consult your resources and see like which, chakra might be the most appropriate or. Also, should we make this script available online?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put it up on our community page, Fellow Travelers, which is an offshoot of our main Facebook page, so you can find it there.
Excellent. All right. So, let's hear it.
Okay, so I'll give you a rundown of what this is going to look like. I'm going to speak out some script parts that is what you would record and slash modify and record to have like a tape recorder play back to you as you are being the recipient. Or if you are working with a partner, this is what you would say to each other. So I will say a thing and then we're going to talk about it, and then I'll say a thing and we'll talk about it. I'll say a thing and I'll talk about it, and that'll bring us through the exercise. Does that make sense?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so here we go. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel at ease. I would like you to focus on your.
And then insert your chosen focal point here.
Are you doing this?
So, when you're listening to the playback, you'll want to respond to yourself out loud.
Great. Now keep your attention here and proceed to listen to the sound of my voice. In future practices, I may request that you draw your attention to.
And then again, your chosen focal point.
This is only to increase your focus and state of relaxation. If you ever find your mind wandering, bring your attention to your,
Chosen focal point.
as you are doing right now, and your mind will again be focused and following along with the sound of my voice. You may open your eyes once more.
All right, my eyes are open.
All right. All right, good. So choose whatever focal point is aligned with something you're already doing in your practice. This will deepen your practice instead of having to kind of choose a new thing to work with or changing it up all the time. Consistency is pretty good. Unless, like Luxa said earlier, you're trying to do some very specific kind of work and you want to work with like a specific chakra or whatever. I mean, you got to mix it up sometimes. But in general, pick something that you're already working with. If you're working with a hara, go with that. Also, when you get used to working this way, you can use that focal point in everyday life to refocus your mind if you find yourself being distracted, just because you like start working in that routine and working in that like sort of like a trigger,
Yeah,
right?
you're like laying down the mental pathways to get back there easier, right?
Exactly, exactly. So you can also just meditate in the sense of maintaining your focus on this point for a period of time, and this can be very relaxing in and of itself. Just like zazen, you're gonna have to kind of like let other thoughts that come to your mind just kind of pass by.
Yeah, definitely. So, what are the next steps for hypnosis?
Sure. So the next steps for this self hypnosis that we have here involve general relaxation. So my suggestion is put some soothing music on, preferably nothing with vocals. You can just like go on YouTube and like type in meditation music. Actually, my favorite thing is if you go to YouTube and you type in Japanese flute music. I think it's the first one that comes up. It might not be though. That one's really, if you find the right one, it's really good.
Okay, cool.
Uh,
Hot tip.
then, yeah, right. And so next, stretch or do yoga for a bit until you feel like all your muscles are really relaxed. Then run through that ball of light relaxation program that we taught you like many episodes back, or you can do the progressive muscle relaxation, or just some other kind of additional relaxation technique that ties relaxation with the mind. Now sit quietly and bring your attention to your focal point for a period of time before beginning the next section, which we will need to audio record for you.
All right.
Close your eyes and take a deep breath in, expanding your chest fully and filling up your lungs. Hold this for 1, 2, 3, and slowly exhale. We're going to do this 3 more times. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Slowly exhale. And inhale, 1, 2, 3, and slowly exhale.
Okay, so far some breathing work.
Yep, breath work is really good, right? Working in all those different things that we talked about before that were non occult specific relaxation
Hmm.
practices, right? So the next step is recording a dialogue regarding each part of the body. And I'm not going to run through the entire dialogue with you, but this is generally what it's going to sound like. Now bring your attention to your feet. Become very aware of them. Now feel them becoming very relaxed and warm and heavy. Now we'll move up to the calves, and so forth and so on until you've reached the crown of your head. Now, Hewitt wants you to do this 3 times. He wants you to go from foot to head, foot to head, foot to head 3 times. Um, I don't disagree with him. Progressive relaxation is pretty essential in order to maximize ease and malleability. However, if you use the yoga and the ball of light and the meditation and all that other stuff before, I think you're already going to be in a pretty physically relaxed state. And then one run through of that sort of guided body relaxation should be sufficient to achieve the state conducive to hypnosis. So now we'll continue on with the recording.
All right.
I would like you to imagine a blank white void. There's nothing there, not even your body, just your consciousness. In this void, visualize
Insert the piece of furniture that you're sitting on here.
you are sitting on. See it clearly. Now see it slowly fading, going from opaque and slowly becoming more and more translucent, fading away until there is nothing left but a blank white void. Forget about it entirely as you drift into an even deeper state of relaxation. Listen to the sound of my voice as I count back from 10 to 1. Each time I count, you feel even more at peace and more deeply relaxed than you were before. 10, 9. You are sinking deeper into relaxation. 8, 7. You are even more at ease as your body grows heavy. 6, 5. You are cozy and at peace. 4, 3, you are becoming more and more relaxed. 2, 1, you are perfectly at ease. At this point, I want you to bring your attention to your
Insert focal point here.
focus there for a moment. Now bring your attention to the sound of my voice. As you sink ever deeper into the most profound state of relaxation, feel waves of peace and ease wash over you endlessly as you follow me even deeper into ultimate peace. There is no limit now to the peace you feel. In fact, you have become peace and relaxation itself. The very thing is you. You are it, here and now. Every breath you take is a breath of life, maintaining this state of sublime perfection.
Ah, very relaxing.
Yeah. So, if you're operating a true hypnosis session, this is where you're going to start editing your operating system by introducing code to the subconscious.
Have we mentioned if you like our podcast, you should subscribe?
Indeed, please do. Um, so Hewitt recommends no more than 3 suggestions the first time. I honestly would limit myself to 1 new thing at a time, 2 at the very most. I think this kind of mental hacking, you're likely to be more successful the slower you go with it. And if if something doesn't go to your liking, it'll be more easily undone this way, unless instead of if you piled on a whole bunch of things all at once,
Yeah, no, definitely. I absolutely agree. I think it's really important to proceed. I was going to say proceed with caution, but I don't think that's the right word. Proceed with intention in this kind of stuff. Just as general rule of thumb. Can you give us some examples of
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
type of suggestions that might be entered in here?
Yeah, I mean, it can range from like a wide variety of things. From like, I will be more. All right, so how about this? I will snap at my coworkers less, or I will be more contemplative throughout the day, or I will be less inclined to reach for a cigarette, or I will decrease the amount of drinking that I do. And you can be very specific with those, or leave it at sort of kind of a vague thing like that. I mean, obviously, the more specific you are, the better. But yeah, I mean, it can run from anything from like habit changing stuff to just like kind of general sense of well being. People have used it also for like decreasing pain, which is really interesting. And I would like to do some more research on that, but I have read about it.
Yeah, so this is stuff like this because this reminds me a lot of like some of the like kind of theory behind like sigil magic and shit. Like it sounds like this is sort of like another way of doing the same thing, which is pretty cool because not different things are going to work for different people. So just a side note.
Totally. Or you could combine them together and like
Yeah.
fire a sigil into your subconscious to be like processed and executed while you're going about your day
Well,
or
yeah.
something.
Well,
I don't know.
like the psychological model sort of says that that's like a big part of it, right? Like already. So
Yeah,
yeah, it might be fun to
yeah.
do some experiments with that. I'm into it, man. Like,
We'll add that to our list of experiments.
okay, excellent. Sounds good.
Cool. Okay, so the next thing that follows is what you're going to record for kind of coming back up out of that hypnotic state. A few moments from now, you will come out of this state feeling relaxed and entirely renewed. You will feel this way all day. At night, when you drift off to sleep, you will do so with ease, as if gracefully floating down a calm and quiet river. When you wake up in the morning, you will do so feeling just as relaxed, renewed, and at peace as you are right now. I'm going to begin counting from 1 to 5, and as I do so, you will feel yourself slowly coming out of the hypnotic state and back to that of regular, waking consciousness. When I say the number 5, you will open your eyes, feeling wide awake, but still in a profound state of peace and relaxation. 1, 2. You are slowly returning to the conscious state. 3. You are still feeling incredibly relaxed and peaceful. 4. 5. Now open your eyes and feel wide awake in this peace and relaxation that you have brought into yourself. That's it. That's the basic rundown. Hewitt and many other hypnotherapists like to include like a clap or a snap at the 5. I find this to be jarring and counterproductive to the state which we're trying to produce.
It's like snap out of it.
Right. Which is kind of like the parody that we gave you in the introduction episode, right? I'm talking very calmly and quietly, and then Luxa screams at you, right? So, um, that said, it's very effective to bring the individual abruptly back to the conscious state. But, if you're doing this at home, you can slowly come back at your own pace. And if you're working with someone else, there's probably going to be some conversation that's taking place after you come back, which is going to prompt brain activity and bring you out of it anyway. So, either way, I think it's good to take some time after you come back out of it and sort of write about your experiences in your journal or have a discussion about it and, write little notes that you can, write down later.
Sounds good. All right, so we have kind of gathered a few just like little tips and tricks and a few notes about our own personal experiences here. So, this first thing I'm going to talk about is definitely not, it's more of a tip or trick since it's definitely not an appropriate, like, long term coping strategy, but it can be pretty useful in a pinch and, like, for other stuff too. So, this is something that works really well for me is using music. You can kind of like make sort of like emotional key or an emotional like portal with like a song by like concentrating on it through meditation and like associating it with different experiences. So that way you like can kind of like listen to the song and it'll just kind of jump you right back to what you kind of keyed it up with, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
definitely.
And I would recommend doing this with songs that aren't popular enough where you're gonna like hear them by accident all the time because I think that that would dilute the effectiveness of it.
That's definitely true. A lot of people also already have strong emotional connections to certain songs, and this can be really useful. Like, say the song "Rebel Yell" by Billy Idol just reminds you of the good old days of partying and stuff. You can have this queued up for when you feel really down or something like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's right. That's like sort of the idea behind like having like a
Yeah,
workout playlist or like what, you know.
definitely.
So yeah, sometimes simple solutions can really work well. Where, what else? Definitely love a good hot bath, cup of tea, hanging out with my cats. I would say spending time with my friends, but that's a little challenging
Yeah,
right now.
yeah,
But
yeah.
there's always online hangouts and everything.
Working in the garden or with plants in general is pretty relaxing, I think. Just kind of reconnect with the earth.
Yeah, dude,
Plants are awesome.
I agree.
Going for a walk in the park or the forest is really good too. Plus, you can get a little exercise that way. Just, maintain 6 feet away from someone. Don't cough on them.
Absolutely. All right, but in general, like for me, just to be honest, meditation, I say, surprising nobody. um, one thing that I really like to do is do like a walking meditation because it's like it's kind of a cool way to multitask and it's like a cool way to make a walk more fun and meaningful, I guess, too. Like, and it's cool. Like if you, I don't know, if you really blank out your mind and like walk out in nature, you'll be
Right.
super amazed at like little weird things you notice and like what kind of like insight you can sort of gain from like just observing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like like these really simple things. Like you can like kind of get to an appreciation of like the complexity that exists
Oh,
between all of the
absolutely.
little simple things. Like you watch like a little ant carry out a very complex task, but it's still just a little ant. Yeah, even the things that are simple are actually complex.
Yeah,
And then,
definitely. Yeah, we're probably just little ants to some massive creatures that we don't even
oh, I
perceive.
mean, why wouldn't we be? I mean, but, but yeah, it's, I mean, and also if everything is complex and everything is also simple, right? You can't have one without the other, but Anyway, as a general rule, it might be good to think of nature as in like a broader sense. Like after all, like we're never like truly apart from it. Like we like to pretend otherwise, but it's a foolish conceit, in my
No,
opinion.
as Anton LaVey said, man, it's just another animal, right? Sometimes better, more often worse.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, even if you're in a city, you're still sort of like still actually technically in nature. Like there's no, I don't know, philosophy aside, you can still get like millions of like really kind of cool, tiny, beautiful, like natural occurrences all around you. You just have to look and, use the right perspective. Like you see the little tiny weed growing in between like the cracks of a sidewalk that has like this very small, beautiful blue flower or whatever it is, like also, as we said,
Yep,
just
yep.
remember to socially distance, right? If that's still a thing by the time that you're listening to this, hopefully it will be a thing of the past very soon.
Hmm. Indeed. Uh,
One can hope.
yeah, no, that's good.
I like to maintain
For
optimism.
me, I have a lot of hobbies outside of this that bring me a lot of joy and relaxation. I play guitar, draw, I do martial arts, I train in Italian longsword. I'm also an armorer and a blacksmith. I feel like working steel is a really great way to relax because it's sort of a meditative process, right? It involves sort of creative problem
Mm.
solving, but beyond that, like you're just kind of like into the thing you're doing. You're not really, you know,
Yeah, you
thinking
get
too
into that
much.
flow state, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, it definitely causes you to like change up what your thoughts are and what you're focused on, which is sometimes all we really need, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So, I guess you could relate it to like psychedelics, right? And people who've done psychedelics or had a bad trip kind of know what I mean when I say like a thought loop or a feedback loop. Especially if you've had, like I said, a bad trip. But this happens in normal consciousness too,
Hmm.
whatever the heck that is. So, learning to recognize it and liberate yourself from it is pretty key to managing stress and anxiety as well as some like deeper psychological stuff as well.
Yeah, definitely, man.
I mean, I do, of course, want to promote meditation and heavily advocate for a lot of the other stuff we've already talked about: exercise, yoga, weight training. But, that's just part of my like holistic view on self cultivation.
Yeah, I like it, man.
I think that's what we got for you all today.
Yeah, that's right. Let us tell you about the works that we used. I'll go ahead and get started here. Relaxation techniques from the mayoclinic.org.
Auditory beat stimulation and its effects on cognitive and mood states by Chiab and a few other people.
All right, Hypnosis for Beginners by William H. Hewitt.
And what is biofeedback therapy from medicalnewstoday.com.
All right. So that brings us near to our end. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please follow us on the social media if you haven't decided to quit, which if you have, I totally get it. I get it, guys. I do. But we are on Instagram at Fool's Guide, which is one word. And we're also on the Facebook. From our main Facebook page, you can find our community page, Fellow Travelers, and you can join our ever growing community there. So definitely come check us out.
Yeah, and we'd also like to encourage people to send us email. Email us questions or experiences you've had or related to things we've talked about on the show. We're kind of thinking about including a Q&A section or like a listener mail section to our show. So if you'd like to participate in that, you can drop us a line at Fool's Guide the number 2 the occult, all one word, at gmail.com. And maybe you'll hear from us on a future episode.
Yes, yes, yes. Please let us know. What are you up to? What are you working on? What are you into? We want to hear about it. Let us know.
We also have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/FG2TO. Any support you want to give us helps out immensely, and we really appreciate it. We don't currently have any offerings up there, but we're actually working like really hard in this time that we're all stuck at home to generate some kickback for you all for supporting us, and we'll have that up and running in
Yeah,
no time.
definitely. We have some plans for some putting some pretty cool fun
Yeah,
stuff up
for
there
sure.
to thank our supporters. doing the show, they're doing this show, like it means a lot to both of us, but it definitely is a lot of work. So we would appreciate any encouragement you have to offer.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so, all right, we wanted to share a piece with you guys that's pretty popular and like a lot of mindfulness and people that are into stuff like that would probably have already heard it, but I think it's popular for a good reason. So in our culture, like we're trained to suppress much of what we experience. But when we allow ourselves to experience emotion without that inner censor trying to cut us off from it, we can start to understand what lessons we have to learn from ourselves. When things feel overwhelming, feel overwhelmed. Even intense or unpleasant emotion can be turned into a teacher and a useful magical tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have, we're going to read you The Guest House by Rumi.
Uh-huh. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor.
Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight.
The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the front door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Please take care of yourselves and the people around you.
And now we present to you, for your listening pleasure, a triangle wave at 40 hertz.